Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I move that today we honour the Indigenous peoples of this land, the oldest continuing cultures in human history.
The time has now come.
The time has now come.
For the nation.
The nation.
To turn a new page in Australia's history.
In our history.
By righting the wrongs of the
By
past.
righting the wrongs of the past.
Righting the wrongs.
Of those who are the stolen generations.
Stolen.
Stolen. Lost.
This blemished chapter in our nation's history.
This blemished chapter in our nation's
This
history.
blemished chapter in our nation's history.
We say sorry.
We watched this in class today about the stolen generation. We watched this movie, The Rabbit Proof Fence. All the girls cried, even some of the boys. It was pretty confronting. You see, I didn't even know about this.
For the pain.
For the pain and suffering.
And hurt of these stolen generations.
Their descendants.
And their families.
They were sitting with spyglasses, watching our house when Dad went to work. As soon as he went over the hill, they swooped down, came in and knocked on the door real loudly. And they sort of pushed their way in. I cried my heart out, you know. It made me that angry, because no one was there to help us. We never seen Dad again. He died. Well, the government thinks we were taken away because we were neglected. That's what they say in my report. It's all lies, of course.
To the mothers and fathers.
The mothers.
And the fathers.
The sisters and brothers.
For the families. And communities.
None of my class knew what the stolen generation was. And yet, it was massive, and it was terrible what they did. White men came into Australia, they destroyed the land, and they killed so many people. And then they just took children away from their families. I don't understand. Why would someone want to take a child away from their family? I don't know.
For the tragedy. For the childhood lost. For a language lost. Names replaced by numbers.
It was 1935. I was at the post office with my mum and auntie. They put us in the police ute and said they were taking us to Broome. They put the mums in there as well. But when we had gone about 10 miles, they stopped and threw the mothers out of the car. We jumped on the mother's back, crying, trying not to be left behind. But the police took us off and threw us back in the car. They pushed the mothers away and drove off. While the mothers were crying and running after us, we were screaming in the back of the car. When we got to Broome, they put me and my cousin in the Broome lockup. We were only 10 years old.
The truth.
The truth. The truth is ugly.
The truth is an ugly story.
Growing up, we learned that our nation was a great nation, a part of the mothership that was England, and we were together and amazing and this massive community. We learned that we were perfect. We were perfect. But we are not perfect.
I must have been about 4 or 5. I remember being taken to the steps of the local police station with my brothers and sisters. I remember being told to wait until Mum had returned. She'd promised to buy us all ice creams.
The truth is an ugly story.
The truth is an ugly story.
She never returned.
We loved our children. We cared for them, my husband and me. He had gone away to fight in the war and left me at home with our babies. We were happy though. Then, one day they came, the men. I had been expecting them and hid my children each time they came by. But this day, they took me by surprise. There was no time for them to hide. I yelled at them to run. Run! But it was too late. The men came from everywhere, swooped in as they did, drove in their cars, took my babies and sped away. I ran after them. I till I couldn't even see their dust. Then I fell on the ground, sobbing. Broken.
Squalor and neglect, the authorities said. Squalor and neglect. I had 6 children. I was accused of being a bad moral influence in the family home because I had 6 children, because my husband was away fighting in your war.
They told me my children were dead.
We say sorry.
We say sorry. Why? Why were they being taken? What was the benefit? Why? Why were they being taken? Because what? Because they were different? They were different because of the color of their skin, because they didn't speak the same language, because they were just different.
Like me. They told me my mother was dead.
They told me my father was in jail.
They told me my children were gone.
They told me my baby was missing.
They
Told us to forget.
I never got my ice cream.
They brought a truck, 2 white men, and an Aboriginal stockman on his horseback cracking his stock whip.
The kids were found. They ran to their mothers screaming, but they could not get away.
They were herded and piled onto the back of the truck.
Tears flowing, their mother tried clinging to the back of the truck as their children were taken away, all in the name of protection.
After she left the mission, she'd found out that her mum had died years before.
A broken woman fretting for the life of her children that had literally been ripped away from her.
Decades later, that same stockman found her again. Do you know what he said to her?
And remarkably,
Extraordinarily.
She had forgiven him.
That's what gave her happiness.
For the future.
For the future, we take heart.
Let's grasp this opportunity to craft a new future for this great land, Australia. Mr. Speaker, I commend the motion to the House.